In the last video we talked about addressing in OpenStreetMap, and we're going to continue that now. So in the last video we said that we could add address tags to either points or ways, which were buildings, and we went through a number of examples where we knew the addresses. We talked about address ranges, and we talked about address interpolation. So let's continue on with address ranges in something we didn't talk about in the previous video. So let's say we have a row house or a terrace building. So it would be sort of long like this, and in these kind of buildings we often have well, they're basically single family homes, but they share a wall, so we'll draw that, and we'll just leave that the way it is. So in our example, the addresses, let's say this one is 18. The street name doesn't matter. So this one's 18, this one's 20, 22, and 24. So how do we represent this in OpenStreetMap? If you go way back, we talked about ways. We said that ways were just collections of nodes. So let's redraw this just in terms of nodes. So boom, 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 dum, 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 dum. Okay, so those are the nodes that appear in this object above. And we talked about in the ways video that the shape was determined by the ordering of the nodes. And we also said that nodes, or maybe we didn't explicitly say this, but nodes can belong to more than one way at the same time. So in this example, let's draw the building for 18. So we've got our building here, and we'll say building equals yes. And our house number, so we'll put ADDR, house number equals 18 for this one here. Now for the next building, we will draw it like that, and if you'll notice, this node and this node are shared. So this building shares the same nodes as this other building here. So 18 and 20 share this node here, which we'll call 5 and 6. So 5 and 6, and this would be let's say 3 and 4. So 3 and 4 are only in this way, which is the way for building house number 18, and this way that represents house number 20 also has 5 and 6, but it also has 7 and 8. And so we can keep doing that for each of the buildings, and that's how we would do a terrace. So we would treat that just the same we would with a single family home, but they can the buildings share these nodes. So that's the first thing that I wanted to cover. The other one is a different way of handling street addresses. So let's just draw our simple example from last time with our street. And we called it Elm Street. You know, we don't need to put out the full tag because we've talked about it 1,000 times. Its name equals Elm Street, and we'll just draw just a couple of houses. It's more than a couple, but that's fine. So we've got our houses, we've got our street. Now in the previous example we talked about adding the street name to these houses. We did that with the addr street tag, so ADDR street equals Elm Street. And that's fine. But sometimes we may want to associate the street in a different way, and this is a somewhat more controversial way of doing it. It's also considered an older way of handling street addresses in OpenStreetMap, but what we can do is create what's called an associated street relation. So if you go back a few videos, we talked about relations. We said that relations were objects in OpenStreetMap that represented relationships between objects. In this case, the relationship is between a house and a street. And that's important, or that can be important, when we're thinking about navigation. So if we imagine that there was another street behind this one, let's do that in a different color just to make it clear. There was another street here. Although this would say Adder Street, Elm Street, and this would be, let's say, Oak Street. The navigation software may not think about it that way, and may just end up looking at the street that's closest. And you can see, and let's just say that this Oak Street was a little bit closer to the house. But we want to absolutely make sure that relationship between Elm Street and this house, that these two objects are associated. So the way we would do this is we'd make a new relation, and we said in the relation video that relations needed a type. So in this case, the type is associated street, ASSOCIATED street, and you'll see here this S is capitalized. And then we also said that in a relation, the objects in that relation needed a role. So these objects have two types of roles. In this case, our way with the name Elm Street, let's just say the ID is 5, and we just know that way 5 is Elm Street, has the role street. And this way representing the house, let's say it has ID 6, so we would say way 6, role is house. And that's all we need for the associated street relation. If we do this, then the house and the street are associated, and so you wouldn't need the Adder Street tag. That tag can go away because that relationship is already defined in our relation. I wouldn't add, personally, I wouldn't add this relation in this example. I think it's easier just to add the street name, but you might come across this associated street relation, and if you do, then you know what it's all about. And those are pretty much the last two things about this Karlsruhe schema, which is what this addressing scheme is called. Those are the last two things you're going to need. Again, if you live in a non-English speaking country, you'll have a different addressing system, which I won't cover in these videos, or I might eventually cover, but it's not going to be in this video. So you'll need to look that up. But again, if you're in the United States, Canada, Europe, some countries in South America, and some countries in Africa, and some countries in Asia, this should do you pretty well. Okay, see you in the next video.